Let's now jump into Cisco Catalyst Center and take a look at where SD access configuration is actually going to happen. And please keep in mind that for the exam, the Encore exam, you're not required to know how to set any of this up. You just need to know SD access at a theory level. But I think it helps reinforce the theory if we can see some of the behind the scenes. So we're just going to take a very high level tour of Cisco Catalyst Center. Let's go ahead and get logged in. And I'm going to try the new look of the home page. And now we've logged in to Cisco Catalyst Center. We can get a lot of information just from this dashboard page, talking about the health of our wireless network, the switching network, the routing. We can take a look at security advisories. But our real work is going to happen over here in this left-hand pane. You can see everything is designed around workflows. In fact, we can go to some predefined workflows to do some common tasks. For example, if I want to set up a site-to-site VPN that's wired, I can click on that and it can walk me through those steps. I could create an access group as we discussed earlier. But let's take a look at these menu options. Under Design, this is where we would build our network hierarchy. And we can drill down into this map. Let's go into London, for example, and let's view the devices that are in the London office. And we can go into this top device. We can see its health. We can see its device role. Remember, we talked about the different roles that a device could have in an SD access fabric. This is a border router. And under Design, that's also where we would set up our network settings, such as our IP address pools. We could set up our wireless SSIDs here. Let's go into our SSIDs. It looks like we have 4 of them. And I could add another SSID if I wanted to. Now, policy is where the SD access magic really happens. For example, let's go into group-based access control. And earlier we talked about different security groups. Well, here, this is going to give us an overview of the security groups that have been defined. But I like under Overview, if I go into View Traffic for security groups, I can see traffic from one security group, the source, the printer, for example, to a destination group. It highlights where we're going. Let's go back out to Overview, and let's take a look at our policies. And this gives us a very easy to understand view of which security groups have permission or don't have permission to access other security groups. For example, we can see that employees, they're denied from getting to the auditor's security group, but they're permitted to get to all of the other security groups. Next, under provision, this is where we can create our fabric domains. We can add devices to the fabric. Let's go under inventory. And if I wanted to add a device to the London location, I could say add device and do that here. And finally, let's take a look at assurance. This is where we can do a lot of our troubleshooting and monitoring of the network health. For example, if I go into the health dashboard, we can see the health of my network devices, wired clients, but I really like the way it can help us with our troubleshooting. For example, here it says interface connecting network devices is down. If I go into that, we can see that this particular issue occurred. Let's say I want to troubleshoot this issue. We can see where it happened, on what device. We can see when it happened. And if I want to get some help troubleshooting this, I can click on the issue and I can use Cisco's machine reasoning engine that's going to leverage AI to do some background checking and give me a suggested, hopefully, corrected action. Let's say, let's run machine reasoning. It's going to check a few things for us. It's complete. Let's view the details. And after it did a bit of troubleshooting, it says, oh, this interface is administratively down. What is the suggested action? Re-enable the interface by giving a no shutdown command. How easy was that? We see that we've got an issue, we click on it, and Cisco's machine reasoning gives us a suggested course of action. And in an upcoming module, we're going to be taking a closer look at Cisco Catalyst Center. But in this video, I wanted to give you an overview of what Cisco Catalyst Center look like, how we interact with it, and primarily focus on the policy where we can set up those security groups that we talked about earlier. Now I'd like to leave you with a few implementation best practices. First, we want to start with design. Before we provision a single device, we want to define our network hierarchy inside of Cisco Catalyst Center. Let's create our sites, configure the IP address pools, define the security groups. Getting this foundation right is going to make everything else go smoother. Then we want to integrate and test ICE before we build out the entire fabric. Let's make sure that authentication is working. Let's make sure that those SGTs, the security group tags, make sure they're being assigned correctly. We don't want to build a beautiful fabric and then discover that ICE isn't working right. And third, let's take a pilot approach. We can pick one building or maybe even one floor and deploy our fabric there. Let's work through any issues, train the operations team. Then, once that's running smoothly, then we can expand. We don't want to try to fabric enable an entire campus over the weekend. And finally, let's leverage that powerful assurance feature inside of Cisco Catalyst Center. We took just a brief look at it earlier, but we saw that we could take a look at the health scores to see if any area needs attention. And we also took a look at Cisco's MRE, the Machine Reasoning Engine, which can do a great job of helping us diagnose and then resolve any kind of issues that are going on. And at this point in the Encore course, we've got a solid foundation in both SD-WAN and SD-Access. Specifically the concepts. We're not required to configure anything on the exam, but we understand the concepts, the architecture, and we've also seen the tools that can be used to manage them.